and welcome to Engage Live. I'm Tom Nicholl, and today we're going to talk about second shooting, how you can get into it, the things you need to know, and just pretty much how to survive a day as a second shooter with a main photographer. I started out, I did a degree in media and majored in photography. When I came out of university, I just didn't really know what to do. I just kept on a job in a shop. Wasn't too happy, but hey, paid the bills. So I got an opportunity to work with a photographer as a second shooter. Jumped at the chance, and once I got there, I thought my training that I had through my degree would see me through, but I got there and I realized there's a lot of stuff that I didn't know, practical things, just little things that would have completely changed the way I approached that first wedding as a second shooter. Now, the photographer was kind enough to give me the experience, but since then, it was about 3 years ago, since then I've shot hundreds of weddings as a second shooter. I'm now mainly shooting with Donal Doherty, you may know from other Engage classes, as a second shooter, and I'm going to run through a couple of weddings and give you examples of what I do at these weddings as a second shooter and pass on that advice and knowledge to you guys. So, first of all, I'm going to actually talk about the gear I use, the kit, and what way I use it. So, gear, what you need to know and what I use. So I keep a very simple setup because I'm always running and gunning. It's a wedding, you can't carry too much with you. So I've broken it down to pretty much the essentials, what will get me through. As I borrow lenses off the main shooter too, just like wee macro lenses or a wide angle, but this here will get me through 99% of the day. So I'll start with my camera that I use. I use a Canon 6D. I find this a great camera, full frame. It does everything I need it to do. To be honest, I couldn't sort of justify to myself the extra £1,000 for the Mark III, but hey, that's just personal choice. I love this camera, it fits nicely in my hand, does everything I need it to do. Also on this, I've got the Sigma 35mm art lens, the 1.4. This is actually a recent addition. I dropped my 35 Canon f2 and broke the focus, cried, and then went and bought a new lens to make myself feel better. And this here was the choice. It's brilliant. I've used it on a couple of weddings now, and it's fantastically sharp and just looks beautiful. So that's that lens. The other one I have is 85mm Canon 1.8. Brilliant. Like this lens will give you good bang for your buck. I think I paid £200 for this, used. Most of these lenses are actually used because, you know, they're a good investment, they'll hold their value as well, and if they're in good condition, you're set. So this here one I use more for the portraits, like of the groom, you know, gives it a more editorial feel, which a lot of the people I shoot with like that whenever I'm delivering the images. So that's the 85. And the big gun 70 to 200, 2.8. This lens is, well, it can get you out of some sticky situations, but I mainly use it for service, getting candid shots of guests, that sort of thing. Don't really use it an awful lot during the day, but like I said, service, brilliant for that. The other two lenses serve me for the morning, all the way through creative shoots and all that. So this here one's really handy. Flash, if I need it. A lot of stuff I shoot was with natural light, but I always have a flash handy, and if you're stuck in a situation indoors, pouring rain outside, you need to have a flash handy and know how to use it. So the one I'm using currently is the Godex V860. This, I think it was Andrew Appleton turned me onto these lenses. They've got rechargeable batteries. They've got a good setup. It's pretty much like the Canon, but I think a quarter of the price of the Canon. It hasn't failed me yet, so we'll see. But that's a pretty good lens. Keep all my cards in one of these Think Tank Pixel Pocket Rocket. The system I actually use as well for cards, because this is a handy wee tip. So I have the card faced this way, so the labels faced up. When it's empty, when it's full, you just flip it around, put it in there, and you know it's a used card, so you're not pulling cards that are already full, starting to shoot, and you realise, oh, I've got the wrong card. But yeah, it's just a little tip. Strap, I have the Black Rapid, and this is sport version, so it has the underarm sling. This keeps everything in place, because like I said, I'm usually running about, being like from one end to the other all the time, and as a second shooter as well, you're carrying bags and things, and so to have a nice camera strap that's comfortable and secure, it does the job, so that's it. And also, just one last thing, I use this, which is a shoot sack. I think you have to order these from the States, but they're a brilliant bag. They're like foam rubber, and they sort of have a nice flex on it, so it folds around your body, so it's not too heavy. Fit 3 lenses in here, fit a flash, memory card thing. So this is what I carry then around with me once I'm doing my shoots, like during the service, during the creative shoot, during reception. So I've always got one of these here, so I've got a lens to hand with that. So that's a quick run through the gear. Let me know as well in the chat room what you guys use, what you like, what sort of lenses, what sort of cameras. Every photographer under the sun loves to talk about what gear to use, but the important thing is just use what you need. Don't be carrying around junk that, you got one lens that does one shot. If it's an amazing shot, well, go with it, but I just like to have ones that are useful and practical and work very well. Okay, so that was a quick run through of the gear. What I'm going to do is give you 10 tips to think about whenever you're out second shooting with main photographer. These are things, like I said at the top, is going to be just practical things that I picked up along the way. Little things, I've learned these a lot the hard way, and I kind of wish somebody told me this when I started out. So let's get through them. So first of all, know your camera. I can't stress this any more than know your camera. You have to know how to get a good exposure, how to focus it, know all the settings. That's essential to me anyway. If you don't know that and you're fumbling about, you're asking the main shooter like, how do you do this and that, it can get you into a bit of an awkward situation, and maybe you won't be getting results you want. By all means, ask the main shooter if you've got any questions, because they're going to be more experienced than you, but don't ask them in front of like the couple or any of the clients. Just ask them quietly later. Go, hey, how do you do this and that? They're always willing to impart that information, but know your camera to the best of your ability before you start. Second thing is to be a great communicator. Be able to talk to people. That's something that I picked up. Had to pick up pretty quick, because naturally I'm pretty shy, quiet. I was always the quiet one, but I've had to come out more and be a bit more confident with people, and that's the best way to get images, I find, with your subjects, is to make them relaxed. If you're not relaxed, they won't be relaxed. Thing I picked up there was, if you're talking to somebody, you've got a camera in front of your face, and you're trying to talk to them, to direct them, to pose them, they can't see your face, they can't make eye contact with you. So I've just started now taking the camera down from the face, talking to them, getting them ready for the shot, direct them, pose them, bang, works 100% of the time. All the time I'm struggling, going, can move here, can move there, they couldn't hear me. So be a good communicator, have always a wee repertoire of things you ask them. A lot of people, just small talk, like, hey, what do you do? About the day ahead or anything like that. Just things to ease them into conversation, and then just pick up on little points that they make, and you can reference that through the day with them, and it'll make it so much easier. Third is be observant. Now this has 2 things in it. One is you're always looking out for those candid moments, those moments that will tell more of the story. There's what you're there for. You're there to pick up the things that the main shooter can't get. Also, be observant of the fine details, be it the pocket square on the groom's suit, the bouquet, the bride's dress, things like that, where the main shooter's setting up a shot or directing people. But if you're always on the scan for finer details, it's something that's kind of a bugbear for me as well, is like little things being out of place. I'm particularly like rubbish in this thing, like even if there's like something in there that's not meant to be there, you can just go in quickly move it, because I find it's easier than running through Photoshop, taking things out, because I've had to do that there a few times, and now I'm just constantly looking at the scene, making sure everything's clean and clear, while the main shooter's setting up the shot. So fourth is have a shoot list. This is something that when I started, I didn't, like I said, the first one I did, I sort of went in and thought, hey, I know how to take photos, I know how to do this, so it'll be easy. But no, I found very quickly, like, I was kind of in a situation where I didn't exactly know what way to go, how much time, because on wedding days, there's such a time restriction and everything. You might only have a few minutes to get 10 shots that you need for it, such as like the groom's mother, groom's with father, groomsmen, so on. So you have to know and have a routine or a rhythm to get yourself through that. I'll be showing you this later on of what I do, but another great thing was to go through Pinterest and just look through. I looked up for through magazines and stuff that you can get the images on Pinterest. Create a wee Pinterest board and have a list of shots or poses, because that's another thing you have to think about, like, how am I going to direct this person, how am I going to pose them. So I had that there in hand, and it was great, like, getting me into this here rhythm of getting shots, getting through that shoot list as well. So the fifth thing was know the main photographer style. Just on that last point as well, with the Pinterest, this here's another great way to research that. Anytime I'm shooting with a main photographer, I'll look through their portfolio and get a feel for what the way they shoot. I'll also talk to them, like, say, what do you prefer? Do you prefer more candids? Do you prefer more editorial styles, more setup shots? With the idea of having like a little Pinterest board, a little cheat sheet with you, you'll be able to research that, check through shots, that are used in magazines, in ads. Like with Donal's, he's always talking about the Jimmy Choo bride, so I'll be looking for other brands that appeal to mainly the grooms, because that's the guys who I'm looking after most of the time, is the grooms. So I'll be looking through GQ magazines, Vanity Fairs, that sort of stuff, looking through the sort of shots that they've set up there so it can complement the Jimmy Choo bride. So the next thing is, I've got, be like a nurse. By that I mean be like, like a surgical nurse. So you've got the surgeon, he's operating. Your job there is to make sure that you're always ready for the next thing that they're doing. Quite often it being giving them a new lens, getting a flash, changing their fresh batteries, fresh cards, anything like that. Anything to make the main shooter's life easier is a bonus. You'll always get asked back if you make their life easier, and also get referrals to shoot with other people. But it's just, again, you have to be observant. That's another point I made there earlier. So it's just seeing how they shoot and knowing what they're going to need next. Quite often, like I've gotten such a pattern and a rhythm with Donal. I've shot with him many times that he asked me for his 24-70. I know he's asking for a 70-200, but that's just a little quirk that I picked up, and it's just being observant with that. Don't cross the streams. Now by this, don't be wandering across any shots the main shooter's trying to take, because you're going to be in the background, and it's usually not going to be a deliverable image to the couple. If you can't see the main photographer, he can't see you. That's the sort of general rule of thumb. It comes more into play during the service. So usually during the service, you are either side of the church, and you're kind of shooting across each other. But it's to be aware of where that other photographer is at all times. So when you're taking a shot, you're not getting them in your shot, and he's not getting you in yours. Always look out for candidates. Again, this is under the be observant thing. It's always a thing whenever we're sitting during service, people are talking, people are laughing, particularly when there's key moments like the first kiss or anything. When Donal's getting the first kiss in the middle of the aisle, I'm always straight over to the parents, getting their shots of their natural reactions. Be selfless. Now, you're a second shooter, you're there to assist. There's times whenever you're going to be hauling bags across the place, running to get bits of water for them, anything you need to help them do their job easier, and that's what you're there for, is to help. So whenever you're asked to do something, just hey, do it. It'll make their life easier, and get you again more referrals. And finally, dress to impress. So work this out beforehand. Ask your main shooter, what style do you turn up at weddings? Some people have turned up in trainers or just casual trousers or anything. If it doesn't mix with a main shooter who usually turns up in a suit, it's going to look a bit weird and you're not going to really fit in. I would normally wear a suit to a wedding just because it helps me blend in. Today it's one of the weird times where you can wear a suit and not stand out from a crowd. So I'm going to go through our next section now. I'm going to run through a second shooter survival guide, and that there's going to be what shots I get through today. So we're just going to run through that now. I'm going to talk you through shots and refer back to those 10 points as we're going through here in a wedding that I shot a few months ago with Donal. It was at Loch Esk is where I met the guys, the groom. It was a day, it was just pouring down rain. But before that, I went with Donal over to the bridal suite in Harvey's Point, which is just across the other side of the loch, and that's where the bride and the bridesmaids were getting ready. So there I took some detail shots. So while Donal's talking to the bride, talking to bridesmaids, getting shots of them, I went into the other room, got some detail shots here at the table. So as well, I always like this theory of like shoot tight, shoot wide, so you get the whole story, what's happening. So again, just get that. The other thing is get shots of the bouquet and so on. This is just extra shots I'm adding to the main shooter. Donal may shoot this, but I'm trying to give a different perspective and a different angle to this. So again, giving the client more options. So then I made my way over to meet the groom. He was at the reception, Loch Esk. It was pouring with rain. It was probably the wettest wedding I've ever been at. So I had to think, well, where am I going to shoot these guys? Fortunately, there was loads of spaces and rooms in Loch Esk that are brilliant for that. So again, just getting detail shots, getting stuff that's happening. The woman here actually in this, she wasn't even part of that wedding. There was another wedding happening there, and she just decided to fix these guys' flyers. So opportunity for shots, get them in. So the groom's party, I had to take them to a bar. So they were happy enough with that, as you can see. Get some nice candids, go behind the bar, get some shots there. And while the groom's party is sitting in the bar happily, I usually took away the groom. So that's something, when I'm trying to do the groom shots like this, try and separate him a wee bit from the main party. It kind of makes him more at ease, and you kind of get, it's much easier to direct him because his friends aren't, joking and all with him at the time or making fun of him. So I took him into a separate room. So again, like I was saying, get communicating with him, get talking to him, because by then I just sat him at some light at the window, got him sort of positioned up, but he still didn't know what to do. A lot of people don't know what to do whenever they're put in front of the camera. So I sort of have some tricks to do, so get them posed up and start then just talking to them, and then give them something to do. Now, nice one to do is cuffs. So you get them just looking down at the cuffs, fixing them so they're actually doing something, so they're not just standing dead-eyed in front of you. The other things is, just keep them going, get them laughing, and bang, look up the camera, you get that in straight down the camera, another nice shot. So here again, I set up another shot. He's just looking out the window. He doesn't know what to do, he doesn't know what to say. So I dropped a little line in about what he was doing, just talking about, making a joke, get him smiling. So here's a shot that's more, I saw this shot in one of the GQ magazines. So I thought, I'll steal it. So it's just more editorial. I'm thinking about what style the main shooter is shooting in, and he's getting similar shots of the bride that are like you'd see in magazines, you see associated with these brands. So this, very fortunately, I also had the location as well. So the fabulous castle here. So getting them to give a variation of shots, go in, shoot closer, shoot the details. So once I got them shots in the bag, I knew I could go back to the groomsmen who were in the bar, and they were having fun there, hanging out. So again, get more candid. You just kind of go with the flow. If there's sort of crack happening, people having fun, document that. That's what you're there for. Don't worry too much about trying to direct them and get that. You just have to think about your time though. You're the timekeeper of the day. And that's the other thing. The photographers are timekeepers of the day for the wedding. The main photographer has to keep the flow, but the second photographer has to keep the main photographer on track too, because if they are doing a shot, you have to remind them, hey, we need to go 10 minutes time, just let you know. So they've got that in their head so they can move on. So I'm just here getting shots of the guys, they're all hanging out. And yeah, just a bit of fun. So once I got them candids done, I thought, right, I need to get some more formal photos. People still go for formal photos in their albums as much as the candids. I found, so this day was like a washout, but I walked around the hotel, found a nice bright part of the hotel, and then started posing the guys up more formally, got them doing their catalogue poses. So everything was good there. So I've got that in the bag. So they've also got the candids, they've got the formals, they're set. So I'm ticking my boxes, get more sort of relaxed shots, getting coming down here, more candid shots. So after I got all that there, so you get the more formal, you get the setup shots, you get the shots of the groom, you get the guys hanging out. I then say, right, we need to go to the service. Usually you're having very little time. The weddings I'm used to is like you might only have an hour between each section, so you have to be very time conscious on all this. So as soon as we arrive at the service, I get stuck in the details. So I'll usually take one of the groomsmen, ask them to hold an order of service, get that in, document all these, be nice. But photograph the scene. So again, a wee tip I learned was shoot wide and go in for detail, tell a story and then tell the detail there, so you get in closer. So once I got some details, some weddings have more details than others, but I'm just giving you a brief overview of what I do on the day. So I've just taken this wedding and kind of sectioned it out. So while I'm waiting for the main shooter, I'm just getting candidates, getting guests, looking for those people who are laughing and joking, because I don't know how many times I was looking around when I started doing this, trying to get candids. You find these people and they're just like stern faced, probably thinking about something a million miles away. I know I'm not going to take that picture because that picture's not going to work for the couple. Nobody really wants a man standing with a glum looking face at their wedding. So always be scanning around, be observant, always be scanning around for people laughing, joking, and see if you can just capture that moment for them, because they're the winner shots for them. Again, little flower girl, page boy, always good to keep an eye out for wee kids running around the weddings, always a winner. And then the bride arrives. So usually when the bride arrives, Donal's already at the front, or any other main shooters, they're at the front of the aisle, so they're going to get the shot coming down towards you. And I'm usually at the back. So this is usually the first time I'm meeting the bride and the bridesmaids, but it's kind of a pivotal moment of the day, and you don't kind of want to, some are a lot more emotional than others and they'll tear up, but you just, be chill, be relaxed, just tell them, introduce yourself, be a good communicator, just tell them, everything's cool, everything's grand, he's all waiting, set up and ready to go. Then the music starts, they walk down the aisle. I'm usually crouched like some sort of ninja trying to get this shot so I'm not in the way of Donal's shot or the main shooter shooting the front of the eye, so I'm kind of hiding behind them. And you get this nice sort of wide lower shot, which about 9 times out of 10 they'll put in the album. So you're bringing value to the main shooter by providing these here extra shots. And once they get halfway down the eye, I'll run around the side. It's kind of like we have sort of a playbook almost for during the service, because it's so restricted and everything's happening usually at the one time. So when the main shooter's at the front, he'll move to the side. I'll move halfway down the aisle, then scoot across, then down outside to get the reaction coming from the other side, whilst the main shooter's shooting that way. And then I just get some reaction shots of them, again, wide, in for a bit of detail, nice sort of moment. A shot I found that a lot of people go for in their albums, again, because the thing you're thinking about is, how can I provide shots that are actually going to be usable and shots that the couples want from the main shooter? Because when you're shooting for the main shooter, they're showing your images along with theirs. So if you can get more hits for them, even better. So this shot, it gives you detail of the back of the dresses, back of the hair. So, and then you give them sort of 2 different options, side option, detail option. Always goes well. Again, I took a photograph of bouquet earlier, but this is my alternate one during the service. Bit more detail. And whenever the main events happen in the service, now most of the services that I do are Catholic weddings, so I kind of know the routine all the way through it now. I've done it so many times, but during the actual ceremony part, I'm on one side, so I'm usually shooting at the groom. The other shooter, the main shooter, is getting the bride's reaction. So I'm always looking for that moment, like the smile. Again, a lot of guys are kind of nervous when they're up there. I've seen some nervous looking faces, but there's always that moment where they crack a smile, and that's whenever you have to be ready for that. So he's a little bit nervous there, but he's good. Cracks a smile. And there's a shot of the parents. This is the parents of the bride. Then sitting there just beside me while I was taking a shot of the groom. So whenever they go for the first kiss, you get a nice reaction shot from them. Always good to document that. You get an extra shots because the main shooter is doing something else, so you're always being observant, getting more candid shots, waiting for them moments. And then while we're after the ceremonies, the main part's done, we kind of switch sides. I always get a middle aisle shot, get that there in. A few different ones. Then just getting nice reactions, picking them up. So there's that wedding. So I'll show you another wedding here and a few more details of what I do. Right, okay, so I showed you through kind of a taster of a wedding day, but I'm going to break down a few points in the day that I think are essential, because you're going to be at the groom's house on your own. So it's, like I said earlier, about the shoot list and what I do through it. So this is a quick one of the groom's house and where I go from there. So I just get all the groomsmen, gather them up. Usually the best man's the best person to get, because he is the best man and he's got a sense of responsibility in that day. So use him to help you. So I've got all the groomsmen gathered up. I start out usually by getting some individual shots of them each. So I just get them standing, get them posed right. Hands in the pocket is always a good one, because they're always like, what am I going to do with my hands? Hand in the pocket, just weight in the back foot, slight turn, done. Easy. Do that all day long. Then you get an alternate shot of them doing something, so be it the cuffs, tie, lapels, anything like that there, just so their hands have something to do, because guys often just drop their hands there or just plain don't know what to do. So again there, hand side, doing a tie, great, hand in pocket. So then the next thing I do is move on to the group shots. So once I've done their individuals, I get the group shots done. Organise them out a wee bit. Usually I like to have the groom just stand a step out from the rest of the guys, so you know who's the groom. This here one, I just take the shot first, and once I get them posed up, just get like, hey, they're all standing there, hanging out, and then have a bit of, take the camera down face, like I said earlier, you know, make eye contact with them. I usually ask them questions like, hey, you know, just a bit of fun, you know, just ask them about, like, did you have stag do? Usually you'll get a bit of laughter, a bit of looks from each other, inside jokes, that sort of thing. It really breaks the ice, because you've pretty much lined up a group of guys in front of you and they kind of look like that. They just don't know what to do themselves. So these guys broke out this here joke that came from the stag do. It was like, I don't know, some crazy thing where they start shouting and cheering, but hey, it makes for a fun photo, because this one was shot again with Donal, and he's always looking for fun, editorial, natural, so there's this key brand word, so trying to insert a bit of fun. And yeah, back. So yeah, this carries on. After group shots, I then get the standard formal one of him, the groom. So this guy with each of the groomsmen. So I'll get that set up. The groom had some wrestling thing where he just loved wrestling and loved picking everybody up. So this was a thing throughout the day, and he just picked up the best man, being able to like just snap and capture that. Hey, it's good fun. And yeah, just make sure you get the best man. This shot, I know a couple of guys' faces here is just a bit worried looking, and you know, this is just an example of like, you've just set them up. You need to get a bit of interaction, a bit of things going. So here, like before I started talking to them and like getting them to interact with each other. So here I was actually in the grounds of the church. That was actually their old school behind them, so they wanted a photo there. So set them up that side. So the next thing I just get them to do is I'll run a wee bit back, get them just walking towards camera. It's so easy to do, so easy to set up. If you know you're going to have that there is in your bag next, that's your next shot. You know how to line them up and get them ready for it. Just get them off camera, talk among themselves, natural shot. So that's just a brief run through of what I do with the groups of guys. I'm going to show you now what I do during the creative shoot and a few more details here. Okay, so sort of ran through some things with the guys. I've got one tip here. This is Tom's top tip. If you're stuck and the guy's kind of uncomfortable and doesn't know what way to stand, lean them against something. Lean them against the wall, shoot along it. Guys like leaning against stuff. I don't know, I've been leaning against this half the class, but if you get them feeling comfortable and at ease, you're on to winner shots. So this here wedding, I've got detail shots as well. So I've got the rings. So this is something that's usually on the second shooter to get like a shot of the rings. Most of the main photographers I've worked with, I've always included a ring shot macro. I don't have a macro lens, I just grab it from the main shooter, take it for a few minutes, get a ring shot. So the idea with the ring shot, I always like to get the rings just touching at the edge, one above the other. Usually have the larger one underneath, and that's usually the guy's ring. Find a nice textured bit of ground. It looks really weird, as you find you're usually doing this at the church, and guests are arriving, and you're on the ground with a macro lens, leaning over, trying to get these here shots. So this was just a nice bit of old stone that was on a wall, and I was leaning over it, trying to get this shot. And again, this is always included in the album by the couples, and you're given those hits for the main shooter, so they appreciate that. Alternate shots of the bouquet. At this time, the bouquet had already had detail shots done in the morning, and it also throughout the service, like in the last example I showed, where they're usually laid out on a bench or something. So usually during the creative shoot, where we just have the bride and groom, times the bride doesn't need the bouquet, so the second shooter becomes the bridesmaid. So I'm usually holding a bouquet, but I find holding a bouquet and trying to take pictures, it's all sorts of mess. So I usually find there's usually somewhere handy to put it down. but don't forget it, because that's happened once before. Put it down, like I usually like to find a nice sort of bit of shrubbery or a bush or something, put it in that and get an alternate shot, nice natural looking things. And again, this here one was shot with Donal, so I'm always thinking natural editorial fun whenever you're shooting, so know your main shooter style. So this is the creative shoot. So whenever the main shooter is shooting wide, I'm shooting in tight, so I'm getting tighter shots while he's getting wider shots. So I'm always looking to see what type of lens they've got on, and do I need to change mine? Do I need to change my position? I've kind of got more in the habit of shooting portraits whenever, because I know with Donal on this wedding, and Donal's style, he shoots more on a landscape format, so I'll change it up a bit, give a few options in portrait style, close up, so you're always at a different angle. This one actually took a lens of the fisheye that Donal had in his bag, so we got this super wide shot in this amazing location here in Donegal, so you get the whole feel of it. Well, he's shooting a closer in shot, so sometimes breaking out of the mold and borrowing a lens adds to the whole occasion. So again, tight shots, getting wide, another example of a wide shot. So here, Donal will be shooting the bride and the groom together, but they're set on parallels on these railroad tracks. So I've got a tight lens, I'm shooting them individually there. So Donal is shooting this here shot where he's got both the bride and the groom in it, but I just zone in and get individuals. Again, they chose a selection of these images for the album, more hits for the album, Main Shooter Love You. Again, just a nice wide shot, compose it, get that in, these three. So when we come to groups, bridal party groups, it's always something that people have a bit of a thing about, formal shots and stuff. So what do you do as a second shooter? Because the main shooter's shooting the formal setup. So I'll try and get a different angle, a different crop. The main shooter's angle is going to be a full length one. So I'm usually crouched down lower, gets a crop, gets bigger area and makes it a bit more interesting. And then after I've done the wide crop, I'll put on a longer lens, probably the 70-200 or even the 85, but sometimes 70-200 gets you out of a bit of a bind at times because you got that zoom. So I'm just zoning in, getting people's faces, getting people's reactions. For this shot, the wide shot, the bridal party is separated either side, so I'm zoning in on each side, getting the reactions of people, And once we've done sort of group shots, usually worth working with Donal, he'll take the bridesmaids, get a couple more setup shots with them, and I'll get the guys, so I'll just get them hanging out, having fun, get more alternate shots. So the more shots you can deliver, just give options to your couple, the more likely they're going to add them to their album or buy products with that on it. So that was a quick run through. We're just hitting on a few points there, going through timeline of the day. You're always making sure you're getting those shots, but you might have a short period of time to get them. So by having a shoot list, you're able just to rattle through it, know that you've got the shots you need to deliver to the main shooter, because particularly in the morning, they're dependent on you capturing those moments because they're not there, and that's why you're there as a second shooter. Once you are together during the service, you can sort of take a bit more of a creative role. You're not always getting safe shots, so you're always looking out for candidates and being more observant of the environment around you. Also, when you're going through to the creative shoot, you're thinking about getting different angles, using different lenses from the main shooter, be it they're using wide, you're using telephoto. You're always thinking about how you're going to make it different and also not getting in each other's way. The other advantage, there's a nice sort of payback. If you have a good relationship with main shooters, usually they're going to be catching you in action, which I've kind of gathered up a library of images of me actually on the job. So you've seen a few of them there. They're great for me as well. I use them on my website whenever promoting myself. This is just, I had to go and fix the bride's dress. So again, just thinking of the details, being selfless, and getting caught in the act there. And this here's like, stand, look at the light. This was actually a freezing beach in January in Donegal, and I'm wearing this big coat, 3-piece suit. I was frozen, but the bridesmaids were troopers. They were like going out in the dress. They didn't even bother taking a coat. So yeah, these here shots we just quickly grabbed while we're waiting on the bride and groom to arrive, and I've used them on my website and promotional materials and stuff. So again, you can get some sort of nice advantages because you've got somebody there with a camera who can take a picture, so you might as well just see if you can get anything extra. This is me testing the light. Bit of a little funny shot for that there, yeah. And then, sure, there's glory. You get through the day, you've won. You can stand in a DJ booth and do Richard Nixon impressions all day long. So, getting into second shooting, I would go and look in your area, see what photographers are out there, see who you like their style, approach them. It could be soft approach, just drop an email. If they don't reply to the email, maybe give them a call and see if they need any second shooters. You may not have a portfolio, but if you can even get to meet them, have a quick coffee, talk to them, they'll get a feel for you as a person. If you're motivated, if you are willing to help, do anything like that, main shooters gonna love that because it'll make their life much easier on wedding days, and that's what you're there for, is to assist the main shooter in their role. So the things about prices and so on rates, again, these here depend on your area, the sort of photographer. You need to know sort of how much they're charging as well to get a price, but all that is kind of negotiated up front. Make sure you get all that clear before you start. Sort of the average rate around here for photographers I'm working with is probably between 130, 150, maybe even £200 if it's a big wedding. So things like that is important to talk about and get in black and white beforehand. Also for images, for image use, for your portfolio, I would always talk to the main photographer first before if I'm using any of the images. Now the images are yours because you took them, it's your copyright, but make sure if any contract that you can't use them then on social media yourself because it was another shooter's wedding and you're posting them on yours saying that it's your wedding. Stuff like that can be a bit grey, so like I always say, just talk about this before you do the wedding with the main shooter. Make sure you're happy with the results. So that was a quick run through there. We only had an hour to cram all that in, but I hope you've got even one nugget of information from that there that will help you go out there and improve your photography, become a second shooter, gain all that experience. Because I went into second shooting kind of blind in a way. I thought, hey, I can do this, I know how to work a camera, but there's so much more involved in it than just knowing how to use your camera. So like we were discussing, you've got the timeline of the day, you're a timekeeper, you're always looking out for small details, you're trying to capture those moments that the main shooter won't get. You're also having to be a main shooter in part when you're at the groom's house at the start of the day, because you're on your own there, so you're going to have to act in the way a main shooter acts, and that's going to give you great experience whenever you go to do your own weddings as a main shooter. And it was proven valuable to me because I was able just to run straight into it and know what to expect then when I moved up to shooting weddings myself. Thank you guys for watching here and Engage Live, tuning in, and I hope you've gained at least if you take one thing away from this, it's worked. It's brilliant. You've got that extra information that will bring you forward in your photography. Stuff that I wish I had whenever I started second shooting. So this is just a brief guide. But if you want any more, let us know in the comments. If you've got any questions, hit us up there on Facebook. There's Engagers Facebook page as well, which is for users of Engage, so you can put comments in there, like get a conversation going with that. So I'd like to thank you and thank the sponsors, and hope that you tune in again for Engage Live, because we've got a lot more stuff coming up. So yeah, keep on social media, check our website, and also you'll probably be getting a newsletter soon, keeping you up to date with everything that's happening. So from me, Tom Nicholl, thank you and goodbye.